Howdy, guys, and welcome to a recap of episode 4 of Survivor Season 41. And welcome to Cliff Notes from somewhere off the island. A good Wednesday to y'all. Episode 4 already. It seems like this season is just flying in Survivor. Part of it is because it seems like so much happens in every episode. It's so action-packed. So with that in mind, let's get right to the recap of what happened this evening. Now, first of all, we see the repercussions, the results right after last week's tribal council. And if you recall, last week, Team Ua, which is a green tribe, went to tribal council. They voted out Brad, sent him home on a 3-1 vote. We see him getting back to their camp in the middle of the night. And Jeannie is not happy, not happy at all. She's feeling left out, very upset at the way the vote went. And she has good reason to. She's the easy next target. She is the only person who voted to send JD out the door. Everyone else that's left in the tribe voted to send Brad out. So she very much feels like the isolated on an island of her own kind of person. And she sees the writing on the wall. So Jeannie is upset about the way things turned out. And she's saying, I know. Brad and I, we were tight together. You sent him home. You blindsided him. You basically blindsided me the same way. Well, Shan is trying to, I guess, soften the blow a little bit to Jeannie, or maybe convince Jeannie that it was the right thing to do, because she's telling Jeannie that, look, I was the only one, Jeannie, that knew about Brad's steal a vote. He told me I was his number one, not you, Jeannie. So you shouldn't be maybe as upset as you think you are, or as you actually are. I'm not sure if I'm Shan that I would have said this in front of the other two tribe members. I think I would have used that perhaps as an opportunity to grab Jeannie off to the side and say, look, Brad was a little sneaky. He told me some things that maybe he didn't tell you. So don't assume that your game is shot, that it was such a bad thing for you to lose Brad. I think she could have done some things to try to bring Jeannie over as much as she could. But by telling her right there out in the open that Brad, he wasn't your number one, it almost feels like she's just kind of sniping at Jeannie, making her feel a little worse, which is not what she needs to be doing at this point. But again, Jeannie is very upset about everything that's happened. And Jeannie is, as a result, she's having a bit of a fit in front of the other three tribe members. She's saying, I'm not doing more work around here. I'm no more cooking for y'all, no more doing anything to support this tribe, which is not what you want to be doing. Don't say that. The last thing you want to do is alienate yourself even farther from the rest of the tribe at this point in time. You're in a very precarious position. Now, if I'm Jeannie, here's what I'm thinking. There's 4 of us left. There's 4 people left on Team Yaze as well. I know I'm the low person on a totem pole, but I just have to survive a few more weeks, survive a few more tribal councils that maybe our team doesn't go back. And even if I am the low man on this tribe's totem pole, as long as we don't go back to tribal council, maybe I can survive until we have tribe merges, and then it's a whole new ball game. That's what I think Jeannie really has to be banking on at this point in time. It's looking a little precarious with her. So we've got that. So we have a reward challenge this week, not just the immunity challenge. We actually have a reward challenge. And here's how it works. The top tribe gets a survival expert that comes in and shows them all the best ways to fish and cook and do all kinds of stuff around camp. The second place tribe gets a very tasty fish. Yeah, we'll talk about the fish in a second, but they get a fish. The first place tribe gets the person who shows them how to fish. Makes me think about that old analogy. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish, he eats for the rest of the Survivor season, I suppose, right? So that's what we've got. And unfortunately, the third place tribe, they got nothing. They're heading back to the house or heading back to camp with nothing in place at all. Now, the competition was kind of cool in that it was one tribe member at a time taking a ball about the size of a volleyball or something, throwing the ball up on a wooden ramp, and then they had to run underneath the ramp, and there's some ropes that kind of slow you down. Run underneath the ramp, get to the other side, catch the ball before it falls. Once all the team members, all 4 team members from each tribe did that, then they get to one of those typical barricades covered with sand. You have to dig all the sand, go out underneath the sand, Once they came back on the other side, then each team member had to throw a ball up and land it on a little ledge that was maybe 8 feet up in the air, something like that. So a somewhat typical Survivor type competition. But here's what I liked about it. It was set up where every team member had to do an equal share. Every team member had to run through the roller ball through the ramp, throw up on the ledge, all that. Sometimes we see these challenges where one person just kind of takes over. They throw the balls, they throw the hoops, whatever it is, and they do all the work. And the other 3, 4, 5 people are just standing around watching it for the most part. No, not on this challenge. This one, everyone had to take their turn doing it. And I like that. I like forcing everyone to contribute on some of these challenges. Now, having said that, it didn't work out so well for Tribe Luvu because Heather just could not get the ball up onto the ramp and get out to the other side before the ball fell. She tried it multiple times. Even when she was able to get it land on the little ramp up above her head, she just couldn't get through fast enough. She starts having a bit of a meltdown. She is, and I think if I recall, there was one person who had already finished. It was her, and then there were 2 people who never even got a chance to compete in the challenge, but because before she ever completes her little portion, the other 2 tribes had finished the challenge, dug through the barricades, landed the ball on their ledges, and she's still trying to get her ball across. She has a meltdown. It was tough to watch. I feel for her. She's Heather is 51 years old. Yeah, I can relate. She's out there. I'm sure she thinks strategically she's okay. Relationship, she's okay, but she's got to think that from a competition standpoint, you're going to have some days that are better than others days, and this was definitely not her day. And she's feeling very upset that she let the team down. She says she let herself down, and just not feeling good at all. She's crying after it's over with. Now, I do like that the rest of the tribe immediately came over and supported her, said all the right things, said, look, it's not you. We're a tribe. We work together. As long as you gave it 100%, which you did. And Jeff talks to her a little bit and says, seeing vulnerabilities like this is what we love in this show. Yeah, okay. It is all about a lot of emotions in Survivor, and she definitely is on the low part of the emotional roller coaster after the episode. But the rest of the tribe is saying, you're good, we love you, don't worry about it. Here's the thing. No matter how much they say that, and no matter how much they absolutely believe it and are truthful when they say that, you don't forget it either, right? And it may come back and bite Heather if you have to pick someone that tribe decides that the weak link is who they need to get rid of. So not a good day for Heather at all. And as far as the results go, kind of buried the lead there. As far as the results go, Team UA has won the challenge. They needed a little pick-me-up after that last tribal council. So Team UA has won the challenge, and Yazzie has won second place. They kind of had a bad streak at the beginning, but now they've come in second place. Let's talk about second place. They won a fish. I don't know if someone took a bunch of blue paint and painted this fish, or it's just an exotic kind of creature, but kind of a bright blue looking funky little fish there. But hey, when you're hungry, who cares what color the fish is? And I keep reminding myself, this season, they don't have any bags of rice. They don't have any food except what they can gather on their own. So to have a big old fish that you can cook up and eat, it's pretty important deal for the second place team, Yazzie. The first place team with the survival experts, fine. While we see this guy crawling up a coconut tree, crawling down upside down this coconut tree and teaching them how to, saying you go out in low tide to catch your fish. And it looks like he's cooking fish inside of coconuts with a bunch of lime juice in there. It kind of sounds like some ceviche stuff. It looked really good. I have said, if you spend just a few days with this guy, you could eat like a king the rest of the time on the Survivor season. So they are extremely excited about that. But here's something that's a little interesting. Remember that conversation when Jeannie said, I'm not cooking for y'all. I'm not doing anything if I'm just going to get sent home anyway. Well, that's come back to bite her just a little bit, because we hear Ricard saying in a confessional while the survival guy's there saying, look, now that we know how to fish and cook and we understand what it may take for us to survive and everything, we don't need Jeannie. We don't need her cooking anymore. So yeah, it just continues to be a rough situation for Jeannie in this particular tribe. So that's team UA. Let's go to team Luvu instead, the blue team. blue team, 6 people strong. They definitely have excelled so far in this season, which doesn't mean that there isn't a little division, a little divide forming within this tribe. Now, remember last week, was it last week? I think it was last week. We saw everyone kind of throwing, Sydney, I think, was throwing Nasir under the bus, and it really seemed like Nasir was the primary target, perhaps, on this tribe. It's amazing. It's a week difference when we watch on TV, but it's really, 2 or 3 days difference. In the span of just 2 or 3 days, it seems like Nasir is no longer the primary target. It's because some people are trying to play the game and maybe trying to play it just a little too hard, because we've got Erica approaching Deshawn and saying, look, Sydney is just, she's too sneaky. We've got to go after Sydney and get her out of the game. We haven't seen a lot of Erica this season so far. She just hasn't made a lot of appearances. She and Heather both, though, 2 players that showed up this week that we hadn't seen so much in the previous episodes. But Erica, if she starts talking, she's starting to tell Deshawn, look, we got to get Sydney out. She's got to go. Now, I don't know if it's a matter of Erica trying to, or worried that maybe there's a target on her, and so she's going to try to pick out another female that maybe people are going to look at as potentially being a little bit of a weak link competition-wise. I don't know exactly why she said. Maybe she just didn't get along so well with Sydney so far. But Erica is saying, we got to get rid of Sydney if we get a chance. And Deshawn said, yeah, whatever, sure, why not? I'm all for that. I don't have any problem with that, Erica. But, of course, as soon as he gets away from her, we hear that he actually trusts Erica, or he trusts Sydney a lot more than he trusts Erica. He mentioned, he says, look, Erica hadn't said much. She hadn't talked game. She hadn't done anything. Anyone that's that quiet, it isn't because they don't know the game. He says she's got a lot of survivor intelligence and everything. He says she's just she's just not telling us about it. And so he trusts Sydney a lot more than Erica. So, of course, he immediately goes to Sydney and says, guess who's throwing your name out, Sydney? Guess who wants you out the door? Yeah, it's Erica. And so he mentions that. And then they immediately go over and tell Danny as well. So now we've got a lot of the tribe that's aware that Erica's trying to stir things up. And you got to be careful. I understand setting some things up just in case you go to a tribal council and all of that. But this is a strong team. And there's a part of me that thinks you don't want to be the first person to really start stirring things up. Maybe Erica just thought that Sydney, because of her already talking about Nasir and everything else, that there were already some division, she could get away with it. But I just think you don't want to be the first person to start making waves in a tribe. You need to portray yourself very much as a team player, as long as you're not the one getting thrown under the bus. But she didn't do that. She throws Sydney under the bus instead, and everyone knows about it. And unfortunately, as a result, Deshawn and Danny are both saying, yeah, and Sydney as well, saying, all right, Erica's got to go. She's the one that needs to be gone. She needs to be got, right? Now, here's the thing. I'm seeing a theme this season, and it seems even more prevalent than maybe past seasons. It's all about trust, but trusting the wrong people. How many moves have we seen this season where someone felt like they trusted someone enough to give out information, and information is gold, but they've given out the information and it's come back to bite them. We see it again with Erica this week, and we're going to see it in a few more situations through the rest of this episode. So yeah, Erica has not really created the best situation for her. It's unfortunate because she probably could have just stayed quiet, and we don't even know if they're going to tribal council yet. They're so strong. Just don't make waves until you have to make waves, until you got to keep your head above water. Then you can make waves. All right. So here's the thing. We've got Deshawn and Danny now very untrusting of Erica, to the point that they're not just saying, look, if we go to tribal council, we know who we need to send home. And that I would get. But they're now saying, hey, look, we're 6 strong. The other 2 tribes only have 4 players each. We're still going to outnumber everyone else on that tribe, even if we lose the next one. And they're saying, what if we threw this next competition just to get out kind of the poisoned apple within our tribe, just so we can go ahead and send Erica home, and that's not going to hurt us any, and why not do that? No, I wouldn't do that. I hate the idea of throwing a competition. And I think Danny's the one that says, yeah, strategically, maybe it makes sense as a pro athlete, as someone who always fights. It goes against everything. I can't necessarily do it, but they're talking about it. I think that's a bad decision. I think you stay as strong as possible, because here's the deal. Yeah, you're still going to outnumber everyone else. Yes, you may get rid of someone that you think is kind of poisoning the well in your tribe, so to speak. But you intentionally lose the immunity challenge this week. Maybe next week it's not intentional that you lose it. Well, suddenly you've lost your sacrificial target. If you send Sydney home or send Erica home this week, you've lost that easy target for next week, and maybe it's you instead. So I think in the game of Survivor, you always stay as strong as you possibly could. Because here's the other thing too. Yeah, I know they feel offended. Deshaun is just, that I don't know why he's offended. Erica apparently trusted him enough that she approached him about trying to do something to get Sydney out. So at least from Erica's viewpoint, she saw a little bit of a bond between these two. So is Deshaun really that quick to want to boot someone who feels at least some kind of connection? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. But of course, we're seeing all the information that the players on the island aren't seeing. They have their own perceptions. They're trying to make assumptions and such. But they are talking about throwing the competition itself. So we'll see how that turns out. On to the immunity challenge. And there's no talk that we see about butterflies are just dead relatives, or broccolis are little trees, or anything like that. Now, Brad had found one of these three-way idol advantages, but of course he's gone. I was kind of surprised that we didn't already see members of his tribe running around looking for that advantage this week, but we didn't. I'm sure Xander still made a mention about the butterflies being former people and all of that, but they just didn't show it. The castaways got to be wondering why this guy keeps talking about butterflies, right? But yeah, so we didn't see anything in play with immunity idols this week on that particular advantage. But we do have the immunity challenge, and it's another fun, somewhat typical Survivor type challenge. Everyone has to jump in the water, swim to a bunch of different platforms where there's a bunch of log pieces, pieces of wood, lumber on platforms. Untie those pieces, make your way to shore. As a team, they then have to take these blocks, push them through a very long sluice, a very long ramp. And as they keep pushing from one side, eventually it'll push out a bunch of blocks on the other side. And once you do that, one of those blocks contains a key. You have to go sort through all the blocks, find out which one has the key. That allows you to unlock 3 hoops made out of hemp or something. And you have to hook the 3 rings, throw the rings, and land on some hooks first in order to win immunity. Now, just like last week, just like the last couple of weeks, the top 2 teams are safe. We're only going to lose one person this week at Tribal Council. And as the competition starts, as is somewhat typical in some of these challenges, Yaze starts off in last place fairly early. I don't know what the deal is. At one point, we see Evie swimming, and she's swimming back out to sea, it looks like, instead of where she's supposed to be going. I've noticed she wears glasses during these competitions, which is tough when you're doing so many competitions in the water that she doesn't have contacts, and her eyesight isn't quite enough that she has to keep her glasses on. That's got to be hard. But we see Evie swimming the wrong way. Yaze just isn't the best tribe when it comes to some of these comps, especially water comps and balance comps and things like that. So they're behind. And it's pretty funny because at this point we discover that sure enough, as was discussed earlier, Danny and Deshaun are indeed trying to throw this competition so they can go ahead and send Erica home. And they're trying so hard. It is horrific watching them try to lollygag around and waste as much time as possible without being obvious. And yet they still can't get behind Yaze, who's just going so slow in the water. It's driving them crazy. Eventually, now here's the problem. Danny and Nasir are slow playing everything, trying to lose this competition, but not Nasir. Nasir may feel, and we didn't even see confessionals from Nasir. He really wasn't in the episode that much, except during the competition. He may feel like he's on the line as a potential target a little bit based on last week, because he's fighting and he's giving it everything. I like Nasir, I really do. He's giving everything he's got on this challenge, and they're trying to slow it down. Nasir's pushing those blocks through as quick as he can, and he's going fast. He's fighting. He's doing everything these 2 guys aren't doing. And then at the very end, when they're looking for the keys, was it Deshaun, I think, who says, hey, if I find this key, I'm throwing it somewhere. We won't find this the whole time we're looking. Well, Erica finds the key, so that doesn't work either. And so they're throwing the hoops as well. And as it turns out, The winner of the immunity challenge this week is Yaze. Even though they were in last place at one point, they jump in. I think Xander throws the rings, does a pretty good job with it, and they end up winning the entire competition. And second place is Luvu. Luvu, who was trying so hard to lose. They're such a dominant team. And again, I think it's Nasir who makes two or three. He may have hooked all three loops. At one point, we see Danny just throwing it. A toddler could throw these rings better than he was throwing it. It's kind of, I don't know. It looked a little obvious, but maybe not so much. But he's doing that. Meanwhile, JD on Team UA is yelling as he throws a ring, saying money shot and everything. Well, he tried the same thing when he's throwing balls, sandbags last week. And I think people are a little perturbed that he seems a little overconfident as he makes his shots. Well, he didn't make them this time because, again, Luvu beats out Team UA. And so, unfortunately, Team UA is going to Tribal Council for the second week, for the second episode in a row. Not looking good for Jeannie. Jeannie was outnumbered 3-1, and it looks like she may be paying the price at this point in time. Now, the advantage or the one good thing going for Jeannie, she knows she's a target. She understands that her position in this tribe is precarious, and so she's considering rolling that safety die, taking a chance. Now, I mentioned last week in my recap, I wasn't sure if once you roll this die, if that's it, if you lose it. And remember, if you roll a die, if you roll 6 or whatever the symbol is, you've got a 1 in 6 chance of winning safety. But if you roll and you don't land on safety, you have a 5 in 6 chance of that happening, and you lose your vote. So you actually lose power in this tribe. But apparently, based on the conversations I saw tonight, it's a one-shot deal. Once you roll that die, you lose it for the rest of the season. So she has made the decision that, hey, it's a Hail Mary. I might as well take the chance because otherwise I'm going home. She's talking to JD and she's saying, look, I'm going to roll a die. You need to vote Ricard if at all possible. And that way, at least you've got a backup. If I'm safe, you vote Ricard because they'll probably be voting against you. And then you'll be safe, hopefully, as well. I was a little surprised to see Jeannie approaching JD of all three people on that tribe, considering that she had just voted to send JD home the week before. He may not be the one that I would feel the tightest connection with, the most trust with based on that. I think if I was Jeannie, she'd already voted for Ricard in the first week. She voted for JD last week. The only person she hadn't voted for is Shan. I think that maybe is who I would have approached, but I think Jeannie sees that Shan and Ricard may have a pretty tight bond as well. I don't know, but she's trying to get JD on board with her, and JD's saying the right things. Oh yeah, we could do something like that. But here's the thing: none of the other three on that tribe want Jeannie to roll that dice. They've really all decided she's the one that needs to go home. They're comfortable with that. They just have to convince her not to roll that die and potentially get that 1 in 6 shot at safety. So we've got a couple things going, a couple of conversations. I'll cover them pretty quick. JD's telling Ricard, saying, look, Jeannie's got to go. I know you want her gone. I want her gone. Let's just get Jeannie out of here and not worry about it. But meanwhile, Jeannie is telling Shan that she wants Ricard gone. And Shan's not buying it at all. Shan's saying, no, JD needs to go way before Ricard goes. JD, you can't trust him nearly as much as you can Ricard. And JD's got this extra advantage, Jeannie. Why would you want to keep him in the game? And she's really she's trying to sell Jeannie on the idea that there's a reason that they ought to keep Jeannie and send JD home. Because if she can convince Jeannie that she's not the primary target, well, then suddenly Jeannie's not going to roll a die and they feel a bit safer, right? So she's certainly doing her job to work on that. And here's the other thing. Shan's top person right now, it's pretty obvious. Isn't JD, it's Ricard. So the last thing she wants to do is have the possibility of him going home. So that's a consideration. Now, here's the issue that's going on. These advantages have created a little uncertainty because Shan is worried that you could get Jeannie and JD to team up together to have 2 votes, but JD also has an extra vote. Is it steal a vote or just an extra vote? I can't remember. I should have looked that up. But anyway, potentially you could have 3 votes between Jeannie and JD, which would be enough to decide Shan or Ricard going home. So that's the concern that that both Ricard and Shan have at this time, that they could team up against Shan and Ricard and send one of them home. So Shan comes up with an idea, and I had to rewind and watch this a few times. Shan comes up with the idea, a plan that she's going to try to get that extra vote from JD. So the worst that could possibly happen would be a 2-2 tie. So she's going to try to guilt him about trust and him not trusting her. And so how can she trust him if he doesn't trust her? And kind of a convoluted plan, but she puts the plan in action. She ends up telling JD that she really thinks that he and Jeannie are working against Shan and getting ready to send Shan out the door in a blind side. And JD saying, no, why would we do that? Well, I've never said anything. That doesn't make any sense. I would never do that. And why do you think that? And she says, I don't know. Just the way you look, the way she looks. I think y'all are plotting against me. And he said, no. How can I prove it? How can I prove it to you? And finally she says, look, leave your advantage back at camp so that I know you're not going to use that extra vote against me. He says, well, I'm not going to use it against you. She said, well, then leave it back at camp. Well, I give JD some credit. He says, no, you don't leave advantages back at camp. Correct. You don't ever do that. He says, I'm going to take it with me. I'm not going to use it, but just in case something weird happens at the tribal council, I want it there with me. So it looks like JD's not buying what Shan's selling at this point. And I'm getting ready to do a little applause for JD for not falling for the trap until he offers to give it to her instead. Well, she more or less requests it. And he thinks about it, says, if that's what it takes to get you to trust me. Again, remember that theme, people trusting the wrong people trusting a little more than they need to. So by the end of this thing, JD has given his extra vote to Shan to hold on to as a gesture of faith so that she knows that he's not trying to send her out the door. Because obviously, if you're gonna blindside someone, you wouldn't give them your power, so then they leave and you lose your power, right? That's what he's thinking. Of course, she's thinking, well, and now you can't use it against either one of us. Brilliant. Shan's playing quite the game. I'm becoming more and more impressed every episode as I watch her playing. He's agreed to give it to her. Now I'm wondering what's the price that JD is going to pay. Because now we see a little confessional, Shan talking about the fact of, well, he did give me that extra vote. If he went home, I could kind of hold on to that extra vote. She starts humming a little song she likes to hum whenever she's playing the evil side of Shan. I like her. I really have enjoyed watching Shan. And so she's now considering maybe JD just needs to go home right now instead. So we get to tribal council. Jeannie knows at tribal that it's going to be a 3-1 vote, or she suspects it's going to be 3-1. And we as viewers expect that as well. So she wants to roll the die. But JD has an interesting little comment to Jeannie. He says, look, if you roll that die, and you don't make it, you're going to lose your vote. And if you lose your vote, you may really impact some of the people who are trying to work with you right now in the game. Hint, hint, me, Jeannie. Yeah, it sounds like he's suggesting he's trying to convince her not to roll the die because he wants her to think that he's planning to vote with her. And if Jeannie and JD vote together, that's 2 votes, so at least it's a tie. If she rolls the dice, she loses her vote. Well, then suddenly JD's got a vote, but there's 2 people who could vote against Jeannie. So he's kind of warning her, saying, look, you're going to make it worse if you roll a die. Well, in reality, it's all getting back. They don't want her to roll a die. JD's expecting there'll be a 3-1 vote to send Jeannie out the door if he can just get her not to roll that die. So we go to the vote, and we come back. There's an opportunity. I'm not really sure if you roll a die. I thought you rolled it while you were up in the voting booth, but I think based on the way Jeff presented it, I think you maybe stand up at the same time you normally present an immunity idol and say, Jeff, I'm rolling the Hail Mary die. I'm going to try to save myself with a roll of the 6 right now. Because Jeff pauses for a little bit. Jeannie chooses not to roll the die. Is she going to pay the price for that? We're getting ready to find out, because we get the results back by a vote of 3-1. JD is gone. Yeah, congratulations, I suppose, to you, Jeannie. JD is booted instead. And sure enough, Shan and Ricard have both decided to flip and send JD out. I was a little surprised that Jeannie also voted to send JD out the door. I think there may have been some more conversations between herself and Shan that we just didn't see in the episode. They may have tried to work together. Jeannie may have ended up feeling a little tighter with Shan than she expected. Hey, Shan's the only person that Jeannie hadn't voted to send out the tribe so far. So maybe she felt like Shan's the only person she can trust right now. But for whatever reason, she also has voted JD out. JD's out. Not only that, but now Shan has the extra power, the extra vote that JD gave her. So certainly a heck of a day, a heck of an episode for Shan and her position in the game. Now we only have 3 people left in the Uwa tribe. Jeannie's still in trouble because Ricard and Shan are very tight with each other. Jeannie is still the odd man out, but I absolutely get why they would have wanted JD out before Jeannie. JD was trying to play the game a little bit harder. He had some advantages. Just based on the episode so far, Jeannie hasn't really been tight or played a whole lot of strategy with anyone. She seemed just a little bit lost. So I understand why they probably feel safer keeping her in the tribe as opposed to JD. Plus, JD went off with some other members of some other tribes. They don't know what deals he may have worked with other people, things like that. So there's all kinds of reasons why they sent JD out the door instead of Jeannie. But here's the thing now. We've got a tribe with only 3 members on it. Are we getting ready to see some kind of a tribe merge, or are we going to see these 3 somehow get split up amongst the other 2 tribes somehow? Don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next week or 2. But there you have it, guys. We've got lost another player. We lost JD, and JD was one of my preseason favorites. One of the 2 that I really was cheering for this season, he and Nasir. But JD, he's just way too trusting. If you're going to go out, I guess there's a whole lot worse reasons to go out of a game than being a little too trusting, a little too loyal. Ask me about that. But yeah, he goes out because he just trusted Shan a little too much, and he paid the price. But he played with passion. He tried to play the game hard. I liked watching him play. I hate they went home this soon. But hey, it's Survivor. Things happen. Guys, have a fantastic week. We will be back next week for a recap of episode 5. We're going to see if the tribes merge or not. A little preview. We saw a lot of people running around looking for clues, advantages. Looks like Jeannie may get a little fortune that may be very important to her future survival in the game. So we'll see what happens next week. Till then, y'all have a fantastic week. I'll see y'all next Wednesday. If you aren't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. You'll get notifications whenever I drop an episode. And until then, SKD143. Cheers, my friends.